Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wassalamu ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'een. Today's discussion is on the MSA, and when I say the MSA, I made a joke out of it. The common joke usually that people say the Matrimonial Students Association. And usually, when it comes to the MSA, for those of you who went to the MSA Circle event with Dearborn and the 8 other MSAs this past Saturday, the topic was actually about love, covered by Mufti Hussein Kamani, Sheikh Abdullah Wahid, and Sheikh Ishtiyaq. And I guess before we kind of start, someone was saying that the lecture that Miftah had planned for the students might not live up to the expectations of the students, because the lecture topics were talking about loving Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, loving Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, loving your family members, and one subject was also loving the opposite gender in terms of marriage. And someone mentioned, or not someone, many people mentioned that it might throw off the audience because they might be expecting majority of the discussion to be on specifically liking the opposite gender. To which I responded and I said that I hope people misunderstand, because if they do misunderstand and they come to the lecture, it might be that they leave the lecture with learning something. They learn that love is beyond liking the opposite gender, that love actually is very comprehensive, and that love goes beyond the opposite gender, and it goes to your family, and it goes to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and most importantly, love goes to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So before I talk and I start this discussion, I wanted to start the discussion by prefacing it with this point, that love is very comprehensive. It's not what we just think it to be. And as we go throughout this lecture, we'll see that. But to make it very practical and make it straight to the point, we'll go right into the first hadith. Again, if I don't show it here, let me know, and I'll mention it here, because I'm tracking on my phone as I'm speaking. Narrated in Sahih Bukhari, a Sahabi mentioned that we were with the Prophet Muhammad when we were young and had no wealth whatsoever. Rasulullah, he said that, "O young people, whoever among you can marry should marry, because it helps him lower his gaze and guard his modesty, i.e. his private parts from committing illegal sexual intercourse, etc. And whoever is not able to marry should fast, as fasting diminishes his sexual power or desire." Now obviously, given the crowd and given the mature audience, if the crowd was younger, I wouldn't be saying it so openly and frankly, but given it's a college crowd, I feel like college students talk about much more filth than what I'm talking about right now. So some terms, though it should be addressed with some sense of hayat, we also need to be open and frank about what the discussion is. And in fact, this is the discussion. The fact that many people are inclined towards marriage, not because of the marriage itself, but more because of their sexual desires and needs and tendencies. This is the actual bottom line to it. If we were to actually understand the responsibilities of marriage, and we were to understand the work that comes with marriage and that comes with having a husband or a wife, most people might not want to get married at that point. Think about it like this. Let's not talk about it like, let's not look at marriage like it's something with the opposite gender. Let's not talk about marriage as if it's something with someone we like or we are interested in. Let's do it like this. Think about marriage like this, and I'm going to explain it like this, not to scare anybody, but just to put things into perspective very quickly. Imagine you taking care of your laundry. Now you imagine doubling your load for your laundry, right? Imagine cooking for yourself. Now imagine cooking twice as much for yourself, right? Imagine spending money for yourself to buy new clothes. Imagine buying that pair of clothes twice now. The gas money that you needed, imagine paying twice as much at the gas station. Everything that you've been doing, double it. But the time that you have remains the same. This is marriage, right? It's not just, I'm interested in her and I'm interested in him, and we like each other, let's do something. That's the misconception behind marriage, and that's why I said love is so comprehensive. Because if love is understood, then we would understand and take all this in, and then if we felt mature and responsible, we would say that, okay, yeah, I think I should get married. Nonetheless, the hadith itself stands to be true. This is important. You can't negate the fact that there are desires between men and women, and it exists in both. So it's not something that we just say, we just hide it underneath the rug, or this prayer mat and hide it underneath it and say it doesn't exist. No, it very much so exists. It exists. And you have to address it based on who you are as an individual. You have to address it based on your environment. Now, I specifically titled this lecture Matrimonial Students Association because, like I said, this class and this set of series and this lecture is supposed to help us improve our character and our akhlaq and our adab and our manners and our etiquette in regards to our behavior on the college campus. On the college campus. So particularly, all my examples will come from examples that relate to the university environment, just naturally speaking. I'm not talking about anything else beyond that. Because if you want a lecture on that, come to our Sunday class at Iona, I'll talk about that. That's a more general perspective. But here is a college approach. And that's what we have to talk about here today. That this hadith is mentioned, right? Let's keep going. Before we go into understanding how to approach them, I want to say this next hadith very quickly. No one corrected me. Here it is. Very quickly, I'm just saying the hadith for your reference. Keep it in the back of your head. The slide after this slide will make the points that we want to illustrate from these hadith, inshallah. Abdullah ibn Umar radiallahu anhuma reported, my father Umar al-Khattab radiallahu anh said, when his daughter Hafsa radiallahu anha became a widow, I met Uthman ibn Affan radiallahu anh and offered Hafsa for marriage to him. Uthman said, I shall think over the matter. I waited for a few days and then Uthman met me and said, it occurred to me that I should not marry at this time or at present. Then I met Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiallahu anh and I said to him, if you are willing, I shall marry my daughter Hafsa to you. Abu Bakr radiallahu anh remained silent and did not utter any word to me in reply. I grew more angry with him than with Uthman. I had waited for only a few days when Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam asked for her hand, her as in Hafsa, in marriage, and I married her to him. Thereafter, I met Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiallahu anh who said, perhaps you were angry with me when you offered Hafsa to me, and I said nothing in reply. I said, yes, that is so. He said, nothing stopped me to respond to your offer except that I knew that Rasulullah had mentioned her, and I could not disclose the secret of Rasulullah. Had the Messenger of Allah left her, I would have accepted her. This is actually a continuation. Remember, these ahadith come from Kitab al-Adab and Riyadh al-Salihin. The last lecture we discussed was talking about secrets. Remember that? The last part of the lecture? So as you can tell, that secrets kind of continue on to this. Secrets kind of continue on to this. What's the last discussion? Had I not heard Rasulullah mention her name, I would have accepted the proposal. If you did not follow through with that story, I'll summarize it for you, just so you can understand what I just said. Basically, Umar ibn Khattab, his daughter got widowed. She needed to get married. And he went to Uthman bin Affan, another companion of Rasulullah, and asked him, do you want to marry my daughter? He said, I don't think I should get married right now. Then Umar ibn Khattab went to another Sahabi named Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, and he asked him, do you want to marry my daughter? Abu Bakr didn't even say anything. He just stayed quiet. He didn't even say anything. So Umar ibn Khattab got married. So imagine you went to one of your best friends and asked him, would you want to marry my daughter? Now in this context, this kind of throws people off. You guys are following what I just said? Doesn't that sound weird a little bit? To go to your best friend and ask him, do you want to marry my daughter? Because now you're thinking about this whole age thing, right? And I'll do my best not to go on a tangent. I won't do it, inshallah. Fine, let's just keep going. So, I was going to talk about the Western morals and how things change. But anyway, he was upset because his best friend kind of didn't even reply back. He just stayed silent. So he got angry. And then he said some time passed and Rasulullah himself, the Prophet of Allah, came and asked for her hand in marriage. So Uthman said no. Abu Bakr said no. Time passed and the Prophet of Allah came and asked for her hand in marriage, and then he married her to him, right? And then he saw Abu Bakr as-Siddiq one day. They came across each other, and Abu Bakr asked him, it seems like you're still mad about what happened. And he said, of course I was mad. Of course I'm still mad. And then he said, look, the reason why I didn't say anything is because I heard the Prophet mention her name. So I knew he had some interest in her, or that there was intention of him marrying her. So I didn't say anything after that. So I just stayed quiet. Had he not said anything, if I didn't know the Prophet had said this, I would have said yes, of course. There are like a million lessons for this hadith, but we're not going to go into all of that. We're only going to talk about maybe one or two things, okay? The first being is the next slide, which we'll go right into it. So you guys are following the two hadiths, right? This is the first hadith. Abdullah, he talked about When Rasulullah said that if you're young, get married, right, to control yourself, and if you can't get married, then fast. This is one hadith. The second hadith is this frank conversation between Abu Bakr as-Siddiq and Umar ibn Khattab. Given your college students, I'm hoping you guys can keep up, right? So here are the main points of the discussion here today. It's 5:24. I have some time to discuss, and this is basically the second to last slide for our discussion. So now we can start talking. We have the hadith in our head. We have the two stories in our head. We understand the context a little bit. We understand that love is not what it seems to be. It's more comprehensive, right? It's not just how just what we think on our desires. It's more than that. So the first thing written on here is tainted intentions. Who thinks they know what I'm talking about here? You guys have any idea what I'm talking about? Go ahead. Gold digger. Okay. What else did you guys? What else comes to your head when you're thinking about this? Tainted intentions. Nothing. You guys all have pure intentions or something? You guys know what tainted intentions are? Okay. The topic is Matrimonial Students Association. The reason why I mentioned tainted intentions is because 2 points. And if I miss one point, remind me to make it. The first point being is that if you are in the MSA, make sure you're at the MSA for the sake of MSA. Don't taint your intention for being here. Now when you come to this MSA, you come to the program, you're not coming, brothers, you're not coming to see a sister, sisters, you're not coming to see a brother. If that is your intentions are tainted, right? Forget the MSA, you're actually in part of the MSA because you are doing it for who? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? Maybe it's kind of hard for us to connect to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and relate to Him. And I understand that. Because you don't see Allah, you don't hear Allah, you don't feel Allah. Maybe some of us don't know how to feel Allah because we don't pray enough. And that's understandable. But the MSA itself is very tangible. You see the people who are working, you see people putting in hours, people are volunteering, people are making time, people are putting in so much effort, people are coming to give lectures, people are organizing, doing all these things, and you are in the midst of it all, checking someone else out. And your intentions are tainted. Be mindful and be careful of that. I don't know who has what intentions, and I don't know who's here, and I don't know why you're here, but Allah brought you here one way or another. Even if your intentions are tainted, inshallah you can purify it. And if it is tainted, and if you think your intentions are a little bit mixed up right now, just renew it right now. You can do it right now. If you came just to chill or whatever, renew it right now. Just tell yourself, like, I'm here to improve, I'm here to become a better person, that's why I'm here. Just do that, for the sake of Allah. I'm here because by the time I leave, Allah will be happier with me. That's what I want from this lecture. That I don't want to be inspired, I don't want to be motivated, I don't want any of that if it doesn't mean Allah is not happier with me. All I want is Allah to be happier with me. And I say happier, I don't say happy because Allah is already happy with you if you have faith. Having faith is Allah's gift upon us already. The fact that you and I have faith, Allah is happy with us, but beyond that we want Allah to be happier with us. So we want to leave this gathering or any gathering we enter seeking Allah's happiness, seeking His pleasure among us, right? Now that's point one. Point two, does that mean that if you join the MSA and now you have interest in someone, you can't like that person anymore now? No, that's incorrect. That also doesn't make sense. So now you're saying, okay, I joined the MSA, pure intention, cool, I'm going to do whatever I can to help out with the MSA. And now I have interest to the opposite gender. Maybe a brother likes a sister likes a brother, but now he's like, I can't marry her because I'm an MSA now. Does that make any sense? No, that's illogical, that's impractical, right? That's also not a good thing. That is not tainting your intentions, by the way. That is not tainting your intentions. You can have interest towards an individual, but know why you're doing what you're doing, that's all. Know why you're doing what you're doing, that's all. If you have, and we'll go into that and we talk about the next points, but when you come to the MSA event itself, make sure your focus is on the MSA. Make sure you don't treat the sister differently just because you like her, more than you would treat another sister in the MSA. Make sure you don't treat the brother differently just because you like him than any other brother in the MSA. Like this brother gets an extra high and this sister gets an extra smile. It doesn't work like that. That's how you're changing intentions, right? You can like somebody, you can approach somebody, you can want to marry somebody after your pure intentions are to help the MSA, no problem. But distinguish it between your tasks and your gatherings, the halaqat, and whatever it is that you're doing. Don't mix it up to the point where you come to a point you don't know where you're going anymore. Did I come for the halaqah? Did I come for the lecture? Did I come for fastan? Did I come for Mufti Rahman? Or did I come for her? You don't even know anymore. You can't go to that point. That's a point where intentions are tainted. But if you know that, you know what? No. I have interest in this individual, and I want, let's say a brother has interest in a sister. Like, okay, I have interest in this sister, but my focus is actually the fastathon itself. I actually want to go to this program. I want to listen to the lecture. I want to listen to Mufti Rahman. I want to benefit. I want to come. I want to donate to the organization. I want to donate to the charity. I want to fast. I want to get the barakah of fasting. I want to do all these things. I know I will approach her later. Now is not the time. I'm here for fastathon only. You see how you kept it separate? That's keeping it separate. Does that make sense? That if she were to come your way and she says, oh, can you help me with this, but you're doing a task that has already priority, you don't say, I'll help you with this. No, because your task has priority. For example, that's an example. Does that make sense? That's making sure that you distinguish the difference. You cannot taint the intention. But at the same time, don't become so restricted among yourself to say that, oh no, I can't look at anybody, I can't like anybody. That's like going against what nature is. Naturally, people tend to notice one another. Naturally, men are inclined towards women. This is the fitrah of men and women. And this is why this is why marriage is between a man and a woman. This is our fitrah. This is how it's supposed to be. It makes sense. Just don't mess it up. Do it the right way, that's all. Just approach it the right way, that's all. It's not supposed to be complicated. And we'll talk about that a little bit more. What's the next bullet point? Frank conversation. This is the hadith between Umar ibn Khattab and Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anhu. What's the frank part? Who can tell me what the frank part was from the discussion? Who remembers the hadith? We just covered it, guys. Go ahead.
That they acknowledged that one person was.
Yes. She said the frank part of the discussion of the hadith was when Abu Bakr Siddiq just openly told him, it seems like you're still mad at me, right? They're best friends, they're best friends. It seems you're still mad at me about the proposal. There are different discussions and different points I can make about being frank with this, but the point that I want to draw is that when it comes to marriage and thinking about marriage, you have to be frank about the entire situation. And being frank about the situation shows a sense of maturity among you. Does that make sense? That if someone talks to you about marriage, shyness is a trait, and it's a good trait. We talked about this on the first lecture, the second lecture. You guys remember that, right? But shyness does not mean you're immature about it, right? Shyness is you don't want to speak too much on it, but you don't start giggling. That's different. That means you're immature about it, right? There's a difference between being shy and giggling about a subject like, oh yeah, like whatever it is. Being frank about marriage, being frank about proposals, being frank about actual, like, you have an attraction towards somebody for the goodness of actually marrying them, you need to do that. Because if you're not frank, you're going to get into all this mixed up emotions. And that will take you down the entire path. And that's the next follow-up discussion that's coming up. The path, and you see the standings. Financial standing, emotional standing, spiritual standing, and MSA standing. That all gets mixed up if you're not frank. If you're not frank, when I say frank, one of my friends, when he was talking to me about a proposal, I said, look, you have to treat a proposal like it's a business case, like it's a business deal, it's a proposition. Does that make sense? Well, you know when they say, this is professional, it's not personal. That's what it's supposed to be. After the nikah, it's fully personal, don't worry about it. But before the nikah, it can't be personal. It has to be professional, right? For the people that I know who approach it professionally, if things don't work out, they're perfectly fine. They might be a little bit downtrodden, but they get up and they keep moving. But for people who let it become very emotional and very attached, they struggle the most. And that's bound to happen. That's bound to happen, right? You guys can understand that. Whether you go through it or not, you can easily understand the logic behind the sense that if you're emotionally attached to somebody, you're bound to be more hurt than someone who's not emotionally attached. So, that gives a follow-up question. How do you not become emotionally attached? How do you keep it like a professional business case or business deal, whatever you want to call it? Let me see, how much time do I have left? I have 35, a lot of time left. Okay, good. So, before we go to that, I'm going to talk about the first hadith that we talked about. Right here. It said, whoever is not able to marry should fast, as fasting diminishes his desires. At the beginning, Rasulullah said that whoever among you can marry should marry because it helps him lower his gaze, guard his modesty, and whoever is not able to marry should fast. That's fasting. While we were young and had no wealth whatsoever, the Sahabi is mentioning that the Prophet of Allah is talking to youth who were young men who did not have any money whatsoever. Look at how practical Rasulullah is. Think about this. So think about a group of young men who don't have money. And the Prophet of Allah is going to them and telling them, guys, get married young. And then he's also saying, if you can't get married fast. Now, that shows that the wealth aspect can go either way. Sometimes, I want you to follow me on this. Sometimes, for the young, they don't have wealth. We understood this aspect already, right? But even though they don't have wealth, the Prophet of Allah is making a point that just because you don't have wealth doesn't mean you can't get married. But at the same time, he also says that, hey, you might not be able to get married, right? Which can show one of two things. Maybe you do need wealth in your situation, the situation that you're in currently, or beyond that, you need to be mature because they're young men, right? Or it might be both. So why am I bringing this up? Because this lecture is for our improvement. This lecture is not for our mom's improvement or our dad's improvement. It's not for our auntie's improvement or our uncle's improvement. It's not for the sheikh's improvement in the masjid, not for the imam's improvement. So every person who you have some sense of animosity and some sense of whatever negativity towards because you feel like they're making your life hard by limiting you from getting married, this lecture is not about them. They have their own lecture. They'll probably go into that. If not, they should start going to that. You are here for yourself. So, why am I making that as my first point? Because I'm here to call us out on what we lack. I'm not here to call other people out on what they lack. The aunts and the aunties, the uncles, whoever, the moms and the dads, whether they're racist or whatever, that's their problem. That's their problem. And I admit that exists. I'm not going to say it doesn't exist. It exists. There are racist parents. There are parents who stereotype. There are parents who want high class. They don't want people from certain areas. They don't want people with certain skin tone. They don't want people with certain height, people with certain weight. They don't want all these things. I understand that. But this lecture is not about them. So focus. It's about you. It's not about them. We spend most of our time as youth, especially in college, complaining about society, about how much it limits us to get married. But we never seem to realize how much we limit ourselves from getting married. So today's lecture is specifically on you and yourself, and what you do to limit yourself from getting married. And once we finally fix that, maybe we can start complaining about who else is out there. We have this thing that, well, they're making it hard too. I get what I'm doing isn't right, but hey, even if I was doing it right, my parents still wouldn't let me get married. Well, two wrongs don't make it right either. First, fix yourself. So here's my thing. I'm going to pretend that whether you have wealth or not, you're in that second category. Those who cannot get married should fast, as fasting diminishes your, and the word is power because fasting does weaken you in a way, physically. Or your desire, however you want to interpret it. But in this sense, brothers and sisters, if you and I are not actually ready in our current standing for marriage, we should not start complaining about how much the society makes it hard for us to get married. Is that fair to ask? Is that a fair statement to make? Because the statement can be thrown right back in your face. Your mom can come back and tell you, okay, fine, you can get married to whoever you want, but you still don't even know how to do this. You don't even know how to do your own clothes. You don't even know how to do your own laundry. You don't even know how to cook. You don't even know how to go do the grocery shopping. You don't know any of that. You don't even know how much the electric bill is. What are you going to do? Who are you going to get married to? What bill are you going to pay? You don't know what the bills are. What bill are you going to pay? You have to know what the bills are to know what you have to pay, right? So, then what are you going to do? We have this waiting game, like no, they have to fix themselves first. Today you and I say, no, we start to fix ourselves first. We start to fix ourselves first. And I want you to focus on these standings right here. The MSA standing, I don't know if I'll talk about it, I don't know what it means, I'll get to it when I get to it. But the other three, I have some points to make. The first being the financial standing, right? What does that mean? Anyone want to comment on that? Brothers want to comment on that? No brother wants to comment on this? Go ahead.
Like you were saying in the beginning, you gotta have at least enough for double the money for gas, double the money for...
Not exactly double, but yeah. Let's just say more. Financial standing is important. I'm not talking about what your situation in your life is. I'm not talking about if you have rich parents or poor parents. I'm not talking about if you got a job at Google or at the gas station. I'm not talking about any of that. I'm talking about the essence of just being in a good financial standing to be married. Every individual has a different lifestyle. Every individual has a different home. And every one of us has a different financial background. Yes or no? So if I make a blanket statement by saying, you gotta make this much money to be married, that makes no sense. That makes absolutely no sense. And everyone has different standards in life too. My friend used to make this joke, he says, marry within your own tax bracket. He says, marry within your own tax bracket. Maybe he'll listen to this lecture, I don't know. Funny guy. I don't know if he did that though. But anyway, financial standing is an important thing. The hadith says that you should look at the person's wealth. Right? We all know the hadith. Everyone knows the hadith, everyone's like, oh yeah, but the piety. Okay. Wealth is still there though. Wealth is still there. Looks are still there too. We got that part covered real quick, don't worry. We figured that looks part out, that's easy. But the wealth, we just kind of like, goes over our head. Especially brothers, that's why I asked brothers don't have any examples, because I'm strictly looking at brothers for this discussion. Not to put anything away from the sisters, but it's not an obligation upon the sisters to provide something financially to a household or to a marriage or to your own kids. Financially, you have no obligations. Allah has not given you that responsibility. Allah has privileged you by not giving you that responsibility. But you have that responsibility. That's why I asked you guys, because one way or other you have to provide. Right? Now, does that mean that's how it works out every time? Of course not. There are situations where men cannot work because they're sick or ill or something happens, they're struggling, and the wife comes in and supports and provides, which is why having an education or having some sort of experience in the career, this gives you a secure safety system when you're married, even as a sister, right? That if something were to happen to your husband or your son or your dad, you yourself can provide for yourself and your family, inshallah, right? But that's not my point. My point is specifically on marriage, so we're going to talk specifically on that, which is for the man to seek a way, and if you're coming to college, that means you're definitely seeking a degree, right? And I hope you're seeking a degree that gives you something at the end of the day. I really hope so, right? If you're coming here for 4 years, 5 years, you're getting into all, guys, I'm being serious. You're getting, and if you need to think about these things, you're putting 4 years, 5 years of your life into this, you're putting money into loans, if you have any, if Allah bless you with a scholarship, good for you, but you're still spending time, your years are going by. If at the outcome of this you don't have enough money, forget marriage, forget the girl, forget everything. If you don't have money to take care of your parents, that's a problem. Yes or no? We have to take care of our parents too, right? Even if you don't get married, something you can't get out of your life is your parents, you have to take care of them. So I would hope, and I would expect the brothers to have some sort of seriousness and focus and goal towards accumulating some sort of wealth or income in their life. Again, I don't want to put a number to it. I don't want to say you have to make this much money. People live in different lives. People have different lifestyles. You know your lifestyle, you figure it out. But it does not give you an excuse to just chill. You can't. You can't. So you have to find someone to have that in your stand. So that's my first point being is the financial standing. Financial standing. For sisters, I already made the point that obviously if you always want to be, you'd rather be safe than sorry. Right? If you're coming to school, you're coming to university, it's the same thing. You don't come to university to chill. That makes no sense. If a sister came, subhanAllah, to a university for a 4-year degree to just spend whoever's money, if it's her money or her, I don't know whose money, and she's like, well, I'm just going to get married, so my degree doesn't, don't come to college. Why are you coming to college? You're wasting your time. You'd rather do something else to improve yourself. That makes sense, doesn't it? Why would you spend 4 or 5 years coming to college if you're not improving yourself? And, you know, this is hard to listen to, isn't it? Hard to listen to. Because sometimes we think, okay, well, what is going to happen? 1 second. Now, someone might say, okay, wait, what if I'm a sister who actually does put in her time, and I'm putting in my effort towards my specific career to have this security towards my family and provide for them. But then if I get married, I don't get to follow my career. Is it the same thing as a brother? No, there's a difference. There's different obligations, there's different mandatory things upon us. So for the sister who leaves the career to maybe focus on her family, she's making a sacrifice and she gets rewarded for that. A brother leaves a career, he'll get punished for that. Because he left an obligation. Big difference. Big difference. There's equity in Islam, not equality. There's equality in opportunities. There's equality in opportunities. A man and a woman have the same equality in opportunities. Every man and woman can wake up to pray the Hajj, yes or no? Every man and woman can fast, yes or no? Even when you're not allowed to fast, you can do dhikr, you still get rewarded even if you have the intention of fasting, yes or no? You're rewarded literally on your intentions in Islam, yes or no? So there is no inequality when it comes to opportunity in becoming closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for a man or a woman, period. But in roles and responsibilities, there's equity, which is different than equality, and we have to understand that, right? Which is why I was a little bit harsh with the brothers when I talked about financial standings, right? But brothers, if you don't step it up, and if you don't take your life seriously, if you don't take your financial obligations seriously, you can't even begin to talk about marriage. Forget MSA, you can't talk about it. You can't even talk about it, right? This is the first point. The second point being emotional standing. Emotional standing. Now, maybe you have a good internship. Maybe you got a good MCAT score. Maybe you're gonna go to medical school, or you got a job lined up as an engineer for you. Whatever, you got something. Or maybe your parents are just super rich. Good for you, right? So you got money just waiting at home. Fantastic, right? So you're good with the finances. Good, great. But you have anger issues. You have traits about you where you doubt people. You have a tendency to lie, just casually lie. People have these tendencies, you know that, right? Some people lie so much that lying becomes a second nature for them. That they just casually lie in a regular conversation for no point whatsoever. Because they're so used to lying. They're used to being stimulated by a lie. They're used to making someone laugh and doing something just naturally. People have anger issues. There are brothers who have so many anger issues, they get married and they don't know how to control their anger, and they think their wife is like their boy, and they do things they're not supposed to, then they can't do. And they don't know how to control their anger. Even if that's your boy, don't do that. We have to know how to control these things. And obviously anger issues not just within men, it's also within women as well, within all of us. We all have anger problems. If you have anger issues, first confront to yourself that, hey, maybe I don't know how to control myself at times. I was talking to a brother yesterday. Yesterday was Sunday, yeah. I was talking to a brother yesterday, and he was telling me about the fact that he has anger issues sometimes. This man is super freaking gentle, so calm, so collected. He's like, but once in a while I'll get angry. The problem is, if I get angry, I get too angry. So he's usually, let's say 95% of the time, he's calm, collected. 5% of the time, he'll get angry. But that's a big moment. It only takes one moment of anger to ruin everything in your life, yes or no? It just takes that one instance for you to hurt somebody permanently, yes or no? So, I mean, he's not at that level, but I'm making an example from taking his story that he said that, look, when I do get angry, it's a little bit too much. You and I have to know our weaknesses when it comes to our emotional standings. If you and I have crazy possessive issues, you guys know what that means? People who get more than jealous, not jealous. Being jealous, there's a healthy sense of jealousy that's allowed within a marriage, between a husband and a wife. That's allowed. It's actually even a good thing to have, that sense of jealousy. That sense of ownership between a husband and a wife. That's understandable. But some people have a lack of emotional balance where they become overly jealous. That if the slightest things happen, they can't control it. And they start, shaitan gets to them so well that they start making stuff up in their head. They start assuming. They start, that's where you get the idea of personal dhan, having good assumptions of people. That, I know, I was talking to this one brother, he was freaking out about something. I was like, bro, you need to relax. Like, relax. This person is not doing anything, but you're just overthinking it. You end up making up stories in your head that this must have happened and that must have happened, and clearly this is why, and you know why, because you think you're Jibril giving you wahi or something. You know everything. Somehow you know everything. But no, you don't. No, you don't. And then what happens? You do one of two things. You bottle up that jealousy and it bursts out at one point, or you don't bottle up, right? And you say it, and people look at you like, what is wrong with you? That did not happen. And now you have trust issues, right? These things are apparent within people before marriage. Anger problems are apparent within people before marriage. Anger problems happen when you're playing with your boys basketball or something that someone can't control. That's anger problems right there. If you can't control yourself during a game, you have anger issues. Just right there, example. Anger issues is when the traffic is running a little bit slow and you start getting angry, so you curse. You have road rage. Right there, anger issues. Road rage is a perfect example of anger issues. We have to understand these points that get to us. Right? Jealousy. How do you have jealousy? Within siblings. Within siblings. When you get jealous of your own sibling, your own brother or sister, that they're getting attention and you're not. When you should be happy for your brother and sister, that you want them to get attention. Forget me, give them attention, they're my brother and sister. But you can't stand it. Jealousy. Jealousy. Now you can't stand hearing someone else's name instead of your name. Jealousy is when you see someone else get a position, but you're like, I deserve that position, whatever it is, and you envy that person. This is nothing to do with marriage. This is just characteristics of an individual that we have to work on. And if you have these characteristics, please identify them. Because if you end up marrying somebody, you're going to have chaos in your life. Right? You start thinking about all these things. Now it really comes down to it. Do I really think I'm trying to get married right now? Or do I need to actually prepare myself for marriage? Right? My discussion here today is not to show you how you can get married to that girl or boy that I'm saying. No. My discussion here today is to show everybody that, look, before that girl or boy even comes into your mind, you yourself need to come into your mind and you need to reflect, you need to improve, and you need to get ready. Before you can think, know what you're thinking about. Does that make sense? Because if I don't know what I'm thinking about, I'll think about whatever. And whatever works, right? Whatever I want. And then you get married and nothing is going the way you want. You're like, wait, what is this? In the MSA you were so cool. Yeah, bro, it was a meeting. It was a professional environment. Of course she was cool. She can't get mad at you. Now you're at your house. Duh. It's different. It's not the same thing. So you have to know people. You have to know people. You have to know yourself first. You have to know yourself first, right? And that's a whole different discussion, right? If you want to know about, okay, now I know myself, what do I do? Go to a sheikh or go to a counselor, do premarital counseling. Don't come to me. That's not the focus of this class. The focus of this class is for you to improve your personal characteristics. That's it. I'm using marriage as an scapegoat because that's the thing that gets to us, that gets our attention, right? What's the next thing after that? What does it say? Spiritual standing. I don't know what empty standing is for. Just ignore that part. We won't talk about it. I don't know why I wrote it there. I was making this while I was coming up, but the spiritual standing part. Spiritual standing is probably the most important part of it all. And I mentioned this I alluded to it earlier when I talked about the hadith when Rasulullah mentioned that look at her piety as well, right? You guys remember that when I referenced that hadith? That look at her piety as well. I said the attraction, right? The wealth, the family, and then the piety. And before you look at her piety or before you look at his piety, the same thing, self-reflection on your own piety, right? I've seen, like, you will always hear stories of people, I don't know, it could be within brothers or sisters, right? Where you're like, oh yeah, I'll just use brothers as an example, right? But follow with me, it goes vice versa. Brothers are like, I don't want my wife hanging out with the guy, but then he'll go hang out with the girl, right? How does that work, right? Brothers might say that, oh yeah, she needs to be fully covered, but then their shorts are above their knees. Then forget Shafi'i madhab. You're not even in the Shafi'i madhab. You're out of that. You can't even match Shafi'i madhab, right? How does that work, right? I'm using the examples, but it goes vice versa. It goes for sisters too, right? That sisters have an expectation on brothers to say that, oh yeah, he needs to have a beard and he needs to be reciting very nicely. I want to hear Quran from this guy. But you don't even read Quran yourself. How are you going to teach your kids Quran? Ask yourself that. That's very important. That's extremely important. Instead of worrying about what he's reciting, worry about what you're reciting and what your kids are going to be reciting. Spiritual standing is very important. And see, some of us don't even have a standing to begin with. We have nothing to stand on. We have no spirituality to stand on. We have no spirituality to stand on. So when it comes down to this, we're like, yo, I just want a girl who looks the best and has the most piety, and for some reason I want her to marry me. No, that's not going to happen. Or same thing with sisters, whatever. That's not going to happen. Who are you that people are going to be like, oh yeah, I have prepared myself for 19, 20 years, 24 years, 25 years, 30 years, whatever the age is. I have principled myself, I have disciplined myself, and now I'm going to marry a guy or a girl who doesn't know how to take care of themselves. Spiritually. Not physically. I'm not talking about the whole gas bill and the whole like cooking. No. Forget that stuff. Forget the whole, oh, I don't know how to cook and I don't have money to pay the bills. Forget that stuff. Let's not talk about that stuff. Let's just talk about spirituality only. We can ignore. We can pretend like we all know how to cook. We're like Chef Ramsay. No problem. We all do our laundry. No problem. But we don't have any spirituality in us. A marriage without spirituality is a marriage that is dead. And nothing can give it life. And nothing will give it life. It won't. It won't. You can have, I know people who are extremely rich, who live lavish lives, Muslims. I'm talking about extremely rich. They do whatever they want. They want to go to a country tomorrow? Sure, book tickets and go. Literally, no problem. No spirituality though. The barakah in the house is gone. Without that, you have no foundation. See, marriage is not about just doubling your responsibility like a brother mentioned, but it's about creating and structuring the ummah. And I want you to focus on this last point. Marriage is about creating and structuring a family to advance the ummah. Do you guys follow that? Are you guys following this point? This is extremely important. Marriage is about creating and structuring a family to advance the ummah. It is not about you. It is not about her. It's not about you looking pretty, or she has a lot of money, or her dad's really cool. I don't know what it is. It's nothing about. It's not about any of that. It's literally about advancing the ummah. That's what marriage is. That if you come together and you marry an individual and you both have spirituality within you and you both worship Allah, as you both worship Allah, your children will worship Allah and the deen of Allah will remain on this earth. And you will be a facilitator for that progression. And that is why you got married. That is an intention behind getting married. Hard to see it that way. I know it's hard to feel that way, but that's what it has to be. And if you and I don't know the ideal state behind it, then we won't ever aim for it. It's okay to be attracted. It's okay to have these attractions. It's okay to do, go about your own thing. I'm not saying don't have your preferences. You can have your preferences, but beyond that, if you do find someone that you're actually interested in pursuing, please correct your intentions. Come down to it to see your financial standing, their financial standing. And sisters, you should also see his financial standing. Don't just be like, oh yeah, I love him, so yeah, we can be broke, we can do whatever you want. We can go. No, you don't want to be homeless. You need a place for your kids. No. Even if you got money, make sure he has money. Right? Because his money is also your money. So if you have money, he has no money. So he needs to have money. That's important. So financial standing is important. Emotional standing is important. Emotional standing can go for men with anger issues, can go with women with anger issues. Women can have their own sets of emotions. Right? And men have to be careful about that too. Just like I said, you have to be careful about men having anger issues. That leads to so much domestic violence, which is very prevalent in today's society, and it's true, 100%. And then the abuse is mainly towards women, from men towards women. This is true. At the same time, it's not to say that men are not stressed and burdened by women, and they have a high sense of material standards that they expect from their husbands. Whether or not women have money, the expectation is still there, which causes a lot of financial stress upon men, which leads to high chances of cardiovascular disease and cancer as well. This was actually covered by Sheikh Sattar in his lecture about sleep. But anyway, know the emotional standing as well. Filter those criteria out. And the last thing, but the most important thing, as they say that you save the best for last, is a spiritual standing. Habib, if you have no spiritual standing, don't think about marriage. You will only hurt her and yourself. And if you have kids, you will hurt them too. Same thing for the sisters. That if you don't have spiritual standing, if I don't have spiritual standing, stop thinking about marriage. Stop thinking about him, stop thinking about her. It's not gonna get you anywhere because at one point, his money's gonna kind of be stagnant maybe for the most part. There's only so many promotions you can get, right? And her beauty might disappear at one point or a lesson. Let's not say disappear, a lesson. And you'll have kids. And at that point, that is what will matter the most. At that point, if your kids are not blessed, if your kids don't have Quran, and they're not living through the Quran, and they're not living through the Sunnah, at that point it will be very, very hard to facilitate your marriage when we're moving forward. And you have to be mindful of that. I'll conclude with this. If you are actually trying to get married, make dua, it's in the Quran. ربنا هب لنا من ازواجنا وذريتنا قرة اعين واجعلنا للمتقين اماما. And say it sincerely. Look at the ending, guys. وَجَعَلْنَا لِلْمُتَّقِينَ إِمَامًا. And give us the grace to lead the righteous. This is the focus of marriage. This is the focal point of marriage. So if you are actually serious, because it doesn't mean that there aren't people in here who aren't ready. I'm not saying that. But there are also people in here who are not ready. I am saying that. So you know yourself. I'm giving them dua. If you don't know the dua, take note of it. Surah Al-Furqan, ayah number 74. And inshallah, prepare yourself however you can. I don't have much to add. Yep, sorry.
Sorry, there was this one point that you emphasized. It was, you said marriage is about creating structure.
Yes.
Can you say that one more time?
Yeah, I talked about the purpose of marriage is for us to create a structure and family to advance the ummah. Because if we have a structured Muslim family, that continues on the deen of Allah, the religion of Allah. Don't forget, Allah says in Surah Al-Baqarah that we came as vicegerents with Adam alayhi salam, right? To carry on this deen. The prophets came, we're the messenger of the messenger. We have a purpose, we have a mission, we have to fulfill it. If you think your mission in life is to get that degree and get a career, you are mistaken. If you think your mission is to be a millionaire, you are mistaken. Your mission is to carry on deen, is to be the messenger of Rasulullah, the best of messengers. And that's a big responsibility. And you can find someone to help you with that responsibility, and that is why you should be married.